Okay, so I was hoping to do this video a little smarter and do one side first, and then after I know what the heck I'm doing, show you the second time. But I guess we're gonna throw that right out the window. So yeah, we're just gonna jump straight into this one. We are on the passenger side. I've had issues with like grinding noises and things just not sounding great, especially when you go faster. Anything over 45 sounds like something's about ready to explode. So generally, you know, you don't want to drive that. Even short distances and trips, not great. So yeah, we're taking this apart, and I'm like, okay, we're pulling this and taking this rotor off, and I'm seeing some dust in here. Not looking all that great. And yeah, anyone that's familiar with blowing up an axle or a bearing, you'll know exactly what that looks like. So yeah, started pulling the rotor off here, and well, yeah, you can tell where this is going. We have a toast rear bearing. Oh boy, real bad. Oh, real bad. Holy shit. Yeah, there ain't nothing left there. Alright, so much for a quick fix. I guess we're doing a whole teardown. Yikes. Okay, so here we are a couple centuries later, now that frickin' FedEx decided to get their ass in gear. We've got all the goods from Rock Auto. We've got the whole business. We have calipers, we have soft line hoses for the calipers, we have bearings and races, we've got pads, we've got seals, and we've got a box of rotors. Great job here. What the fuck? Got a little extra tape on there just in case, you know, really holding it together here. I wonder what I got. Probably a bunch of stuff that's not in box. Oh, fucking Christ. Oh, I love it. I love it. I wonder if there's even still 2 rotors in the box. Seriously, what the fuck is this? There's one of them. There's 2 of them. Oh, you fat fuck. Well, I really like the rapid disassembly of this box. Really convenient for the customers, you know. It's just such a hassle trying to open the cardboard and take them out, so I really like that. That's quality. Christ. What the fuck? Okay. Well, anyway, here's the rotors. So, for you and alls and Ewans that don't know, this is what the one-piece rotors look like for the 2-wheel drive. So the bearing is part of it. There's not a separate hub. Now, something really important that you may or may not have noticed with your eyeballs just yet, just to show you which ones I got. C-Tech, standard brake rotor. I think the brand was C-Tech, I guess. There's some numbers. But the important part is that the bearing races come pre-installed, so we don't have to put in races. So this part right here, this is where our bearings ride. Generally, you'd have to have a press to press these rotors in when you get new ones. You're not supposed to swap old and new parts, so you get new bearings and new races, and you put them all together. Holy shit, this thing chipped to hell. Look at that. You can see the dings on the surface here because they're all out of the box flapping around. But luckily our race here looks good. So if you get one and you don't have this, it's just like a machined flat surface, you're going to have to install the races as well. So since they come like that, we only need the bearings. Cool. So I guess we got an extra pair of races. Alright, I did not bother getting the retaining nut and all that stuff, because like they were either too pricey or like difficult to find. They come in like packs of 5 or 10 or some bullshit, so it wasn't worth it. Okay, quick and dirty. Let's start from the top. Step 1, remove the calipers, 7mm hex. Step 2, gotta pry out the caliper and piston a little bit. So you really press that in there to free it up. Oh yeah. Then the caliper's free. Well, as long as the pins in the back are far enough away. I think the other one needs a little bit of a press. Come on, you fuck. Okay, step 1B. So, needle nose pliers in here. Come here. So if you take your pliers and try to grab this tip and then you pry back to push that pin out, because that's how deep the pin is after the threads are done. So that has to come off to disengage that. And then the stupid fucking caliper could get the fuck off of you. Yeah, sure, something like that. See? It's that easy. Okay, just jam that in there. That's safe. That's good, yeah. Okay. So we'll take our clips, legs out, and you just up a little bit. Okay. And let's see those mamacitas. Well, that looks a little bit more like a brake pad. And see, dick goes out. This, on the other hand, seems to be suffering from the same issue of not wanting to leave its home. Excuse me, sir, but this is your eviction notice. Fuck off. Yep, looks like a brake pad to me. Cool. Alright. So now all that's left is taking the cap off the nut and popping it all off. Swing. It's time to spin the wheel of misfortune. Let's see what kind of lucky winner we get this time, eh? A little grindy. But there's a little wiggle room. That's no bueno. I love the way you work that thing. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I'm trying to see if there's any play. Yeah, you can definitely see that there's a little bit of loose goosery going in there. Not much. Anyway, cut her pin off and then all the nuts out. Okay, so let's see what's behind door number 2. That doesn't look nearly as bad from first glance. It actually feels like there's still a bearing attached, so that's good. So yeah, this one might have just gotten away with a simple tightening. Still looks like a bearing. Inside looks a little rusty, but you know, par for the course. And back in there, I don't see chunks, so that's cool. Take your bets. Do I crush my balls? I don't want to take that bet. Holy macaroni, that bearing's still intact. Cool. So we didn't wait too long for that side, maybe. But the grease back there definitely looks dry. Not a whole lot of, yeah, that's a little on the thick side. Damn. Okay, but at least this one was in one piece. So, there you go. Disassembly of that part complete. The only other thing left is to beat the shit out of that and free that, but we're going to wait until everything else is done. Cool. Okay, so now you can see all the old grease and stuff has been removed, especially back here too, because that is a sealing surface, I believe. That's where the big bearing, or the big seal goes. So we can see some very obvious pivoting, divoting, rustitry going on there. That ain't freaking pretty. Especially all up in there. I wonder if I can do this. Ooh. Super zoom. Yeah, that kind of looks like shit. Yikes. Alright, well, let's hope that doesn't affect us too much. Okay, well, time to slap the new rotor on. Don't forget your seal. So now we can get down to our fun parts. So this is our rear seal back here, Timken 6815. This is our outer bearing and race. Now I feel like I had to order these separately, but they came as a package. So I don't know how that works exactly, but okay. That's set 2. So it's an LM11949 and LM11910, but we don't need the races because we already have the races installed in the rotors. And here's the big one, the inner bearing and race. That's a set 6, LM67048, LM67010. Okay, so we have to pack the bearings with grease. So I just got this right here, which is just some multi-purpose grease, disc brake wheel bearings. So we got to pack grease in all these gaps. So what you do is you put a glove on with some grease and you slap the bearing into your hand. You'll take the bearing and just kind of like slap it onto your hand to really work the grease in there. I don't know if I can show you how to do it or not. I kind of got to practice myself. But yeah, we're going to grease them up real good. We're going to install the rear bearing. We're going to grease it up, put it in there, and put the rear seal on it. And then stuff it in there. Then we can worry about the front afterwards. But yeah, don't forget about the seal. That's kind of what keeps all the grease inside. Tink. Just think about it. Thank you very much. Pro tip. While you have easy access to this, scrub this shit, because it's a lot harder to do when the rotor's in the way. Beautiful. Ain't that a breeze? Okay, so you're going to carefully put your rotor into place and push it back. Make sure you're not like grinding up on the seal or anything like that. You know, you already hammered it. You don't want to grind it now. We got our front bearing installed, so you kind of just push it in there. It's not real tight. It's, you know, it goes in there. And then we're going to put our pressure washer on here. So if you'll notice, this is keyed. That is so things don't back out when they spin. So if you'll notice, it just kind of goes right on there. And that is going to put pressure onto our system. So now we got that. We're going to clean our nuts before we install them. And with this one, it's actually rather interesting. You're not going super crazy on them. So what you'll do is you install it, and you can kind of crank on it a little bit to seat the bearings first. But like, we're not talking tight. Just enough to get them seated, make sure everything's spinning, moving where it should. And then after that, you're going to back the nut off, and then you're just going to finger tighten it. Like, you can kind of get a feel for, you know, how tight you want your bearings to be, like the rotor, but you want it to spin freely. But you're not putting a lot of pressure on these. This requires a very small amount of preload. I'll have to check the manual to see the exact specification, but I think it's in inch-pounds. Most people do it by feel, but I would like to see if I can get you a real number. Look who's got their hands on now. If we take our book and flip to this page in particular, you can see the whole layout and all that. Okay, here we go. Thrust washer and adjustment nut. Right here. Tighten that only slightly, no more than 12 foot-pounds of torque. Alright, so it is in foot-pounds, so we're not talking really cranking it, you know, just enough. So you crank it down a little just to get it seated, and then you loosen it until it's just barely there, and that's it. So alright. Okay, line up the slot on the washer, tighten the nut to 12 foot-pounds, which for me, I'm literally just going like this. Hand is all the way here, tightening as hard as I can. You don't want to reach down here, it's too much leverage, it's going to be too tight. Tighten it up, spin it in the forward direction a couple times, try it again, and we're good now. So now we're going to back her off, and then finger tight. No more. Okay, and then we put our keeper and our cotter on. Alright, so after you cauterize this wound, we're going to put our little dust cap on there and give it the final tap. Ain't that a right beauty, eh? I'd call that a success. Okay, let me just spritz this side down, wipe it clean, and we could move on to asshole the second. See how smooth this side goes. Alright, so my little penetrant trick, spray a little brake clean first, just to get everything clean and slippery, and then WD-40 or PB Blast or whatever the hell you got, just to really get it in there, and you just give her some whacks. And I mean really fucking whack it. You want to shock load the shit out of that thing to break that thing free. And if that don't work, we're gonna try some heat and whip out the vice grips. But yeah, definitely beaten first. Holy crap, man! You would have thought I'm a professional. So we have our caliper ready to go. This fitting is tight, and I'm not trying to struggle to do this on the vehicle and pop myself in the mouth this time. We're gonna push these pins in so that they're not hitting anything. So they're ready to go. This is ready. I have my Torx ready to take this thing out, beat the crap out of that. More WD-40. I have the vice grips on here so I can have a better grip, and you wouldn't believe it. I just pushed and the thing came off. Holy crap. I didn't even have to use the heat. There is no... Oh, hold on. The line's getting twisty there. I might have spoke a little too soon. Oh no. Okay, so the lot, like the fitting is free, but it's not free on the line here. So it's twisting our line. Alright, well I'm gonna fuck with that a little bit. Well, I thought it was onto something with some heat and hammer, but I guess we can't all be winners. Oh boy. Alright, I guess we're gonna have to re-thread this on the vehicle and pray to God that this damn thing's actually gonna go back together. Okay, so we've got our little hodgepodge of tools here for our double flaring brake set. A few tips for shopping. If you can find one that has these weird like angle cutouts, it's great because you put it in here like this and then rotate it sideways, so you don't have to loosen the thing all the way up to take it off. You can like kind of get it just about where you want it and click it in place. Whereas with this one you have to go all the way up, put it down, put it all the way down. It's a pain in the butt. So that's tip number one. And tip number two, if you're trying to do stuff on vehicle, get yourself one of these little tiny cutters, right? This monster right here, it's great for like cutting big tube and stuff, but for brake line it's huge, and there's no way you're going to be able to spin that thing with that line there. So with this, it's nice and tiny. I mean, it's a little hard to tighten the knob, but you can easily spin this thing right on the vehicle. So yeah, we're gonna cut fresh line. We're gonna clean out the tube. I'm gonna flare it, hopefully on the vehicle. There you go. There's that little piece of crap out of there. So yeah, now we got some fresh tube. And I even got some new nuts. I want to make sure they fit, but this is a 3/16" tube nut. So that'll go in here, so just make sure that thread's on. Put this damn thing on now. Put it on now. Did you hear me? You hear me? Don't forget your nuts. Put your nut on there. So we do not have a lot of opportunities to mess this up. So in case you're curious, everything fits on there well enough. So we got our little adapter piece in there with our anvil. So this is the first part where we squish it down. And then once it's all squished down, then you take it all out, and then you do it again with just the anvil part. Don't forget your nut. Okay, I'll be totally honest with you. First flare came out like shit. Not much of a flare at all. It's alright. Cut it and try it again. The clamp wasn't all that tight, so we'll have to make sure we really crank it down. Alright. Second time's the charm. That looks a lot more like a flare to me. Beautiful. Okay. Final step is we're going to put a little anti-seize on this part of the tube, so next time this nut actually wants to come free. Alright, now we can slap the new caliper on. Woo! now it's time to get into the meat and potatoes of everything here. So we're doing a full rebuild here. We got the replacement rubber hose. Now this Sunsong one comes with our 2 copper crush washers for this end, for the banjo bolt, which is nice. We have this new Geon brake caliper assembly. I don't know if that's what it was called on the on Rock Auto, but this is what's this? It's a partially loaded caliper. So this one comes with fresh new slides that are greased, and it also comes with a banjo bolt and copper washers as well, so we don't have to worry about that. Now the caliper came with brake clips, and our brake pads came with brake clips. Cool, so we have a little extra. So here we just got some centric parts. They're semi-metallic, whatever. Just an El Cheapo, you know, decent enough to do the job. Okay, so when you're done, things should be looking a little something like this. I'd recommend getting your entire caliper assembly ready to go before you crack this thing free, because the second you crack it free, half your freaking brake fluid's gonna end up on the floor, and that thing just starts pissing. So yeah, the quicker you can get everything positioned and tightened so it's not leaking, the better. So yeah. Alrighty, so we've had our cup of joe. Let's get started. We're going to whip out this nice little 1990 factory service manual available on my website in the downloads page. And we're going to find our two-wheel drive XJMJ. We're going to zoom. Zoom. I said zoom. Yes. More. More. Enhance. So if we look right here, this is our inboard shoe, and this is our outboard shoe. Now at first glance it's kind of hard to see a difference, but what we're looking at is this flat piece right here versus this angled piece right here. So that is the difference between our inboard shoe and our outboard shoe. So the flat goes in and the angle goes out. And if we look on Rock Auto, this is like the image that they show, so you can see it a little better. But there's our angle piece and there's our flat piece. So for smooth brains, dick goes out, okay? Flat, no out, but dick goes out. So now we can put this together and get this show on the road. Okay, so the rule with brakes is you always do one side at a time, because if you take them both apart, then you're never going to remember how they all go back together. So we can check our rattle clips here just to see how they were previously installed. So we can see that the clips kind of face to the inside and the flat part goes to the back. So when we take them off, the little fingers grab the top of the caliper. Okay, so you gotta fight them a bit, but that's the way that I installed them. So yeah, hopefully that's good. Alright, now I'm gonna put a little anti-seize on the parts where the pad slides, so on this surface and this surface, same here, but don't get any on the actual rotor brakey part, so that'd be bad. Okay, so that's what it looks like when it's installed with a little lube, and don't forget the dick goes out. So this is our flat goes in, so just slops on there, and there we go. Okay, and that's what it looks like when we force the clips in. So the little finger's got to bite under there, because what it's doing is it's putting pressure on the brake pads to help them slide so they don't get stuck. Same on the bottom. Okay, there we go. Now if your piston isn't closed, we'll have to get a clamp or something to squeeze the piston back in. Since this is brand new, it should be squeezed. Like if you look at our old caliper, see how far out it is, you're going to have a C-clamp or something like that to force that in so that you can actually put it in, because the new pads are obviously thicker. So yeah, if you got a C-clamp, just tighten that bad boy down and you'll be good to install. So it's only been a few days sitting out. We had rain last night, and already you can see this caliper starting to rust. So yeah, I guess they're like uncoated basically, so that's nice. So I guess I'm going to take this off and just spray it real quick with something, just so that maybe it lasts, you know, a little bit longer. Rust belt, man, hate it. Okay, Wow, let's see if that doesn't last just a little bit longer now. Beautiful, just minty. Okay, so we've got our caliper bolted on, and this threaded. Now I wasn't able to hit the original hole, so that is actually the top hole, not the bottom hole. So I'm going to drill a new hole for that little anti-rotation clip to go through. I had to pull a little extra out of the top, but I was just barely able to get that to wiggle, so I want to make sure it's bent just enough it's not rubbing on the frame. But yeah, if you need to do it this way, you can definitely get by. It's doable. Alright, I just real quickly buzzed in a new hole, spritzed a little bit of paint on there so it hopefully doesn't rust. The metal there looks a little thicker. So, or maybe that's just the outer, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But cool. Alright, so now that that's there, we can tighten that down properly on both sides. And then finally start bleeding. Hooray! Okay, so now to show off the one-man brake bleeding solution. So we have ourselves a nice rubber tube that will fit on the end of this bleeder over here, like so. Of course, this has got to have a 10mm bleeder screw instead of your normal 3/8 or sometimes a 7/16 if you're weird. But yeah, 10 mil on that bad boy. It's just cracked loose barely. And we got a tube, run into a new bottle. And the secret here is that the end of the tube has to be submerged. So when you push on the brake pedal, the fluid will come out, and so should the air. And when you let go, it'll suck back in. But the goal is to get this whole tube filled with fluid, so that way, when it goes back and forth, it'll push the air out and only suck the fluid in. So you gotta make sure you're really pushing the pedal all the way down. But yeah, it actually works really well. Also for, you know, brake bleeding, you always start with the farthest cylinder. Now the rear was done about a month ago, hasn't been touched at all, so we just have to worry about the front. So we do this side first, the other side second. And the reservoir is going to be empty, so we're going to fill the crap out of it before we start. Alright, brake fluid is hygroscopic, meaning that it absorbs moisture out of the air, or just water anywhere in general. So you want to keep the contact to the outside world to a minimum. So we're just going to take off this lovely little brake connector here. It's really clean and efficient. If you go back to, I think, the rear brake videos when I painted that, this paint seems to do pretty good for keeping the rust off. So, yeah, we actually still have some fluid in there, amazingly. Doesn't look great, but alright, cool. We can start pushing some, we're going to fill this up, and then we're going to start pushing the pedal and see what we get. Alright, so we got one hand on the pedal and one hand to watch the bubbles. And we just keep doing that until all the bubbles are gone and we have the air out of the system. Alright, now, another thing you want to make sure you don't do is let the reservoir run dry like this. Now, I kind of did it on purpose because I wanted to get all the old fluid out and wipe the bottom clean for all that gunk. But yeah, when you're actually doing this with the real fluid, do not let it run dry or you have to do the whole process again. So, now that we can clean the bottom of this out, I'm going to fill it all the way up and we shouldn't have that issue anymore. Alright, so I've actually hopped back and forth. So this one I was getting little tiny bubbles here and there for a while. But it looked pretty decent. So I jumped over to the other side, did the other side real quick, and it cleared up right away, and there was no bubbles, no little itty-bitty burpy bubbles, nothing. Just totally solid right off the bat. But what I did notice is that we had a leaky connection. So now that we got some fluid in the system, it'd be a great time to check all of the fittings, connections, whatever that you touched, maybe things you didn't touch too, just to make sure that everything is solid again. So this nut needed to be tightened at least another half turn, so that was cranked down more. I also tightened up the banjo bolt on the caliper a little tighter. Each one of those got at least a quarter turn more out of those. So now I'm going to bleed them one more time now that everything is tight and checked, and we're going to make sure our fluid is good. I topped it all the way up until the bottle was empty, and that's not bad. Alright, I got another bottle sitting around. This one was almost empty, so we're going to put a little more fluid in there and check our bleeds one more time. Well, we had some easy access, painted that fitting, so hopefully that doesn't rust. And went through all the grease fittings real quick. One on each ball joint, so one on the top, one on the bottom, and then all four of the front steering joints, except all these joints are completely just like, they're gross. They're done. The each grease fitting is completely like rusted. I tried to take one out, drill the center out, get all the goop out. Still can't get it to spray through, and I even put a fresh fitting on there to spray and it just wouldn't go. So I kind of brake cleaned the inside of them. I just lifted the flap and spurtsed it, and then put some white lithium grease on there, so we'll see if that gets any movement. But it looks like I might have to do a steering joint job at some point. Oh boy. Can't say I'm surprised. Definitely gonna need some new shocks at some point, and maybe look at these springs and, well, basically everything else besides the brakes now. But you get the point. Anyway, I'm gonna put the tires on. Ye old greasy boy. Oh man, what a nice feeling that is, seeing this wheel back on. Okay, and if we try to shake it, we don't get any play at all. I can't really hold the camera well enough to like show you, but like the tire is rock solid. We're not talking about any kind of wiggle, in, out, up, down, any of that. It's not going anywhere. All we got is nice, smooth left and right. Don't mind the brake pads. But yeah, so good wheel bearing, shouldn't move an inch. Cool. Alright, let's drop this puppy and torque these lug nuts. Can't forget the final step. Clean the bitch. She's dirty. Shit. Well, she ain't exactly the prettiest, but at least she moves again. Excelente. Took it on the road and it sounded beautiful. I like the brakes. I like the wheel bearings. And I just kind of like the truck. It definitely needs a lot more work, but we're getting there. One major safety component at a time. So there you go. That's how you do two-wheel drive, axle, hub bearings, and a brake job, and a bunch of other stupid little shit while you're in there. So hopefully you learned something. I certainly did. Renix is still a pain in the ass. Who would have thunk? That's why I got two of them, right? Never learn. Alright, see ya.